So when I was in junior high, I really wanted to learn how to surf. I grew up in Southern California. I'd always been going to the beach, and I'd always seen people surfing, but I'd never surfed myself. And I started having some friends who knew how to surf or grew up surfing. And so when I was in junior high, a friend of mine and me, we went down and we participated in this week-long learn to surf camp. It was just every day you went down to the beach, Monday through Friday, and all day for like 8 hours you're out there trying to figure out how to surf. And by the end of this, we really could surf. I mean, not well, but we could go out in the water and we could stand up and ride the board back in. And really, I never got much better than that. Probably where I ended up at the end of that first week was as good a surfer as I had ever been. But I liked being at the ocean. I liked the challenge of trying to surf, of going out there in the waves. And I even liked just to get out past the break and kind of sit on the surfboard and just kind of relax out there, especially early in the morning. So I liked the act of surfing, even if I was never very good at it. Now, I had some friends, they lived in Huntington Beach. So sometimes I'd go with them early in the morning and we would surf in Huntington Beach. But where they would go was really like a locals only spot. It wasn't really where you should be going if you're new to surfing. But I'd go with them, and so it was kind of okay. Now, all the locals who surfed there was a number of unwritten rules that you needed to follow if you were going to surf with them. But nobody was going to tell me or anyone what the unwritten rules were. But if you did certain things, like they had a certain order that people would take the waves in. Well, if you tried to ride a wave, but that was supposed to be someone else's wave, well, this would really upset some people. And if you did stuff that they perceived as rude, even if you had no idea that that was going to be rude for you to do that, well, they'd be pretty mean to you. They'd do all kinds of things, try to knock you off your board when you're riding, whatever, to basically punish you for your bad behavior. So luckily, I had these friends. They could kind of show me the ropes and tell me what to do, or where we could where we could surf, where we weren't going to have to interact with these people. Now, if that was my first experience, if I decided, hey, I want to learn to surf, and I had gone out to this particular spot in Huntington Beach, I would have had a really terrible first experience of surfing. I mean, thank goodness that I had that first week where I was just with my friend and some people who were teaching us, and I could spend that whole first week learning, and that was my first experience of surfing, and I got to enjoy it and see the positives for it. I think if my first experience had been over in Huntington Beach, I might have been too quick to write off the whole sport. Like, if these are the people who surf, these Huntington Beach locals, if these are surfers, well, maybe I don't want any part of this sport. I mean, maybe this is a sport for a bunch of jerks that I don't want to be around. It would have been easy maybe to write off the whole thing, but miss the good in it. If I had so easily judged the surfers, then I might never have found the joy that I ended up taking in surfing. Now, it's been a long time since I surfed. I don't even know if I could stand up anymore. But now that when I look back, even if every surfer that I ever met was a jerk, and obviously that's not true. There's many great people who surf, right? If every single one was terrible and rude, that really wouldn't take anything away from the sport of surfing. The sport of surfing could still be good, even if everybody who participates in it is terrible. And I could still have enjoyed surfing, even if every single person I knew who surfed was not that great of a person or didn't treat me that well. But you could understand why it would be easy to just write the whole sport off and not get to that point. Thank goodness I had a positive experience that when I could take it into the next experience, I could go, no, I know I like surfing. Even if these new people are not my favorite people in the world, I'm still going to enjoy it. I think sometimes people have this reaction with Christianity. Well, even more so, because, see, Christians are pretty terrible. I mean, not all Christians, but there are Christians out there that are not living the way that they ought to live. As Christians, even more than surfing, we have something that we think is good, Christianity, but in particular, Christianity requires us to have this high moral standard. Christianity teaches that you need to be good, to love your neighbor, to love God. And when we see Christians that don't live that way, it's easy to understand why somebody would wonder, well, if Christians are all rude, then maybe the underlying faith, Christianity, has something to do with it. it's easy to have a bad experience with a Christian and then write off Christianity, the faith that they represent. And the problem is that as Christians, we've not been good about living up to that high moral standard. You can go online and find headline after headline of Christians involved in some pretty serious scandals. So if you're not part of Christianity, you're outside of Christianity and you're looking in, trying to figure out what's that Christianity about. And you can see pretty big examples of Christians living lives that are pretty hypocritical. And then if you knew some Christians and they weren't very kind to you, and I know I'm guilty of this, I've not always lived up to the standards that I would, say are good. I know I haven't lived up to the example that Jesus has given in my own personal life. If that's your experience with Christians, Christians are all rude, judgmental, hypocritical, people who do one thing on Saturday, then they want to ask forgiveness on Sunday morning and move on with life like nothing ever happened. You could understand why somebody would be hesitant or outright have some type of animosity towards Christians because of their bad experience with Christians. This is the huge problem that we have with Christianity, or really any faith system or any type of set of ideals that any person would want to hold to. Christianity is a set of ideals. God has a set of rules for us, or commandments that he would like to see us follow. And God himself is perfect, and we're trying to live up to that. But as Christians, we know that we will never live up to the standards that God holds for us. That as Christians, we know we are all sinful. All humanity is imperfect. And so no matter what the ideals are that we want to hold up to, we're eventually going to fall short and be hypocrites. We're going to eventually say, hey, somebody shouldn't do that thing. And then ourselves, we're going to go do it. It's a really tough problem. And it's easy to say, hey, Christians should stop being hypocrites and we should all live better, which we should. But ultimately, no matter what, no matter how good Christians can get, we're never going to be perfect. And so in the end, we're going to fall short of the ideals that we say that we hold. This is just the problem of human nature. And so, as difficult of a problem this is, we need to sometimes separate the people of the Christian people from Christianity. Just like I needed to learn to separate, the jerk surfers that I was interacting with from the sport of surfing. It's so easy to get caught up in evaluating Christianity by the behavior of Christians. But even if every Christian in the world was just absolutely terrible and no one was doing anything to try to live up to the ideals they held, the ideals of Christianity stand alone. They stand on their own. And so they need to be evaluated on their own. If every Christian is a hypocrite, which essentially all Christians are going to be at one point or another, if all Christians are sinners, if all Christians are just jerks who just aren't fun to be around, that doesn't say anything about the truth of Christianity. Christianity may be true or false regardless. I mean, Christianity could be also false even if every Christian that we ever met was wonderful, a perfect person. People you're like, oh, I want to be with those people. They might still be part of a faith system that was wrong, just like if all the people we ever met who are Christians are terrible, Christianity might still be right, still be true. It's very difficult to take ourselves, our own feelings, our own experiences with people out of the equation. But ultimately, if we want to find the truth, then we've got to take the behavior of Christians and we got to set that aside temporarily to evaluate, hey, is Christianity true? If Christianity is true, now we can use it to evaluate the behavior of those Christians. And I hope that we are using it to try to, I hope we're all on that path of trying to be living more and more in the example that Jesus gave us. But we cannot write off the truth of Christianity based on bad behavior of its adherents. In the end, if God is real, if God really exists, even if every person who says they believe in him are just people we don't want anything to do with, well, he's still there, and so we still need to deal with him. So I think if we're going to evaluate Christianity, any faith system, any set of ideals, any philosophy, we've got to set aside the behavior of the people who say they believe it and focus on the underlying claims of Christianity to evaluate those first. Hey, are those true? And if they are, now we can deal with the people who say they believe them.